The reason that we find ourselves in never-ending cycles is because we haven't done the work to change our mindsets. In order to create actual change in our life, we have to be super intentional about changing the stories that we have in our head to best fit where we want to go and who we want to be. Hi, my name is Anissa. If you're new here, in today's video, I'll be discussing how you can change your mindset so we can all level up and strive to create our dream lives. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers and I'm so excited about that. And I plan to do a giveaway soon for that. So again, if you are new here or you haven't subscribed, make sure you go ahead and do that below. And also turn the notification bell on so you're notified whenever I post a new video. So without further ado, let's get right into today's video. I think people underestimate how powerful our minds are. Like there's just so much power that we haven't even tapped into yet as human beings when it comes to like our brain. And our minds are just so capable of creating things, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Our brains are literally the most important part of our bodies, but I feel like we neglect it and put it on the back burner versus like other parts of our body, which I feel like our mind is the most important. As we all know, once we are born into life, we are our purest forms. And over time, we start to develop insecurities and negative limiting beliefs about in stories that are projected onto us from other people that essentially creates a version of us that's wounded. We develop mindsets that were put onto us from our parents, our friends, or just from people from school. And although we don't deserve what we've been through in our lives, I still think it's our responsibility to heal from that and grow from that so we don't constantly create generational cycles and generational curses of the same trauma from people who hurt us. Like y'all heard it before, hurt people. And for us to actually grow and for us to create environments where people are free to be themselves, in order for us to progress in society, we have to do the work ourselves first. So the first thing we need to do to change our mindsets is to, one, uncover your negative limiting beliefs. If you guys don't know what limiting beliefs are, they're pretty much beliefs that you have held on to from childhood, whether it's you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough whatever. These are things that were brought onto us from people who were also hurt and they projected that onto us. So we pretty much grew up carrying those limiting beliefs about ourselves, which isn't true, but because we were taught that and we were told that, we grew up with the idea that that is our truth when it's not our truth at all. So in order to uncover and to heal negative limiting beliefs, we have to do that through shadow work. So asking yourself questions of like why I am the way that I am, where did this insecurity come from? This can be done through therapy, through journaling, just pretty much you have to like question yourself. If you don't question yourself on a daily basis or just like in general, like you have to get to the root of why you are the way that you are. I think also when you do shadow work, it's really healing because you understand that nothing is ever really personal. It's more so just people who kind of project onto you from their own hurt as well. So once you like kind of take that up like, okay, this person treated me like this because of X, Y, and Z, not because I am those things, but because I'm just like an easy target for them to like project on, if that makes sense. I truly believe that we are all created with unique qualities about ourselves, whether it's our strengths or our weaknesses. I feel like sometimes our weaknesses are also used for our overall purpose. But I think it's all about just switching your perspective on how you see yourself, how you do view your strengths and your weaknesses. And from there, it's about just accepting yourself from where you're at and who you are and being okay with it. Because at the end of the day, like we all came into this life to create, to love, to experience things. And I believe a part of that journey is accepting yourself. So again, through therapy, uncovering those things that you were brought to think about or believe about is ultimately a great way to start changing those negative limiting beliefs and twisting them to best fit your story of like, actually, no, I am smart. I am good enough. I am pretty. I am worthy. I am X, Y, and Z. You have to literally convince yourself and tell yourself these things because whatever you believe, that is actually going to manifest into your reality. So you have to be very, very careful and very intentional about how you speak to yourself and how you speak to others. A famous philosopher once said, I think, therefore I am. So our minds play a big, big part in how we operate throughout the world and how we attract and bring things into our life. Like if you don't believe that you're worthy of love, for example, then you're going to go through life perceiving that story of, oh, I'm not worthy of love. And it's going to translate to like being in toxic relationships or situationships, or it'll manifest in different ways. But that's why it's so important to change that story and a negative limiting belief to when it's like, no, I am worthy of love. This person treated me like this when I was a child, but that doesn't mean that I'm not worthy of love. They did whatever they did to me, but that doesn't mean that has anything to do with my self-worth and who I am as a person. So I need to change the story in my head of like, okay, I'm not worthy enough to actually know I am worthy enough. The next thing we need to do to change our mindset is to limit distractions. I feel like most of us just go through life just like kind of just floating and not really taking the time to like be still and be quiet with our thoughts. Like a lot of people are actually like scared of their own thoughts. They're scared of being alone. They're scared of sitting with themselves. And I feel like it's scary, yes, but that's honestly like the only way to really get to know yourself is to be able to sit with yourself and question like who you are as a person. In order for us to actually do that, like we have to like question whether a belief that we have is actually our belief or was it something that was brought onto us by like our friends, our parents, our partners, or whatever. And I feel like in order for you to do that, you have to be able to sit with yourself alone to really understand like what it is in your mind or what it is that you actually like want for yourself. Like pay attention to like what you're attracted to. Pay attention to like what you desire, what you find interesting, what you find fascinating. Those are all telltale signs of what your innermost being is like reaching out for and calling to that specific thing, whether it's like a certain, career or passion project or type of relationship, things like that. It's trying to fully understand like who you are as a person and also just like the human psychology of others around you as well. I feel like when you're so distracted by other people and also just by being on your phone or like, numbing yourself out to whether it's drugs or escapism or sex, I feel like when you don't take the time to just sit with yourself and ask yourself questions, you will continue to have these unhealthy habits that will eventually honestly lead you nowhere. We're so consumed with, social media and we're constantly being fed these things in our ear. And I feel like it's hard to tell the difference between what you actually want for yourself versus like what people in society kind of like put onto you. And I know that listening to your internal thoughts can be a very scary thing. There's like freedom to like actually unveiling who you are as a person when it comes to doing that, because it's like either you have that courage to quiet your mind, listen to your thoughts and just be one with yourself and find freedom within that because you get to understand yourself on a completely different level, or it's going through life pretty much just like on autopilot. I feel like escaping from who you are through other people and different things and different, unhealthy coping mechanisms, it's going to be more damaging to yourself in the long run. Facing ourselves and our thoughts, it's hard, it's difficult, it can be painful and heartbreaking, but we shouldn't allow what we've been through to stop us from creating the life that we actually want for ourselves. I personally believe that like it is so much more worth it for you to actually take the steps to work on yourself, like going to therapy, doing whatever you need to do to go towards your dream life versus just like kind of floating around, just like being a shell of a person. And therapy, like that's when you can really understand more of yourself as well too, to where it's like you can actually have the tools to heal from what you've been through and to become a better version of ourselves for ourselves because we deserve that. The next thing we need to do to change our mindset is to get out of the victim mindset. We need to go from victim mindset to warrior mindset. This goes back to my first point of, like obviously like we don't deserve the things that we've been through, but at a certain point, it is our responsibility to heal from those things and become better. I feel like a lot of us would rather be victims of a situation rather than taking accountability and responsibility for our lives. Because honestly, it's easier, right? It's easier to just blame, oh, I don't have this because of X, Y, and Z. Oh, I'm like this because of X, Y, Z. But it's like, you're not going to get anywhere in life with a victim mindset or a victim mentality. Especially when you get to a certain age, it's like no one's going to be responsible for you but you. And obviously privilege does exist, but I feel like worrying about how other people are privileged is not going to really do anything beneficial for us because it's like we're constantly still worrying about other people. We're constantly projecting and putting the blame on other people of like, oh, I don't have that many resources. I don't have this, I don't have that. But it's like, okay, well, someone who has a warrior mindset will find ways to figure out how they can get to X, Y, and Z. They're not going to let their circumstances stop them from achieving what they are meant to achieve. Chances are, if you're able to watch this video through a phone or a TV or whatever the case may be, you're a lot more privileged than you think you are to be. So just taking that into account of like, hey, like what do I have and how can I work with what I got? Because everyone starts from a certain point, whether it's someone higher than you who had things easier in life and whatnot, or if you're at this point, I see life as like a game, honestly. It's like you have to start from different levels, and whatever you're met with, if you're on level 5, level 50, whatever, you still have to beat the game, right? Like you still have to like put in the work to figure out, okay, how can I achieve the game of life? And through that, honestly, it's like you have to get out of that victim mentality. Like you have to take accountability for your life. I understand like you have power. I feel like a lot of people feel powerless as well too, where it's like, oh, I don't feel like I am capable of doing X, Y, Z. If you are able-bodied and you are in your right mind, you're somewhat more healthy. Like there's so many success stories of people who have nothing. They were still able to go after their dreams. There are people who were not able-bodied, who didn't have their health in check, or they went through something traumatic or whatever, or they like, there's people literally who like, I remember when I was in Paris, like walking down the street, I saw this person he had no limbs. He only had like, I believe, one leg. And he was painting beautiful pieces of artwork on the street and selling them. And I'm like, if this man who can't even walk still not allow an outside circumstance to stop him from going after his dreams and still painting and creating art for this city, what's stopping you? Honestly, like what's stopping you? That's an example of someone who has a warrior mindset. He didn't let anything stop him from doing what he was meant to do and what he was called on earth to do. I think it's all about just seeing life from a cup, not half empty, but half full. Just having like gratitude of what you do have in your life. And constantly harboring over the fact that other people have more privilege than you is going to keep you exactly where you are, in the same exact spot. Just not moving and just stuck. Like we have the power to change our reality if we believe we can do so. The one constant thing in life is change. And I feel like things are going to happen in life that we just cannot control. Like we're going to be hurt, we're going to be disappointed, we're going to grieve. But when you have a warrior mindset, you use what you've been through to your advantage and you share what you've been through with others. You use your experience to be able to help other people. But if you keep using your experiences to hold you back of like, oh, this person did that to me, so that's why I am the way that I am. That's why I can't speak at this event. That's why I can't do this. I can't do that. What is that going to do for anyone? Like, how are you going to help anyone with that type of mindset? Like, how are you going to be able to help people when you don't see life from what is this lesson teaching me versus like feeling like you're being punished? Why is this happening to me? To, okay, what is this doing for me? So changing your perception of, oh my God, why is this happening to me versus, okay, what is this doing for me? How can I learn from this experience? How can I learn from this lesson? How can I incorporate this experience to push myself to higher heights? The last thing that we need to do to change our mindset is to have gratitude. The more that we're grateful for what we do have in our life, I feel like honestly just having an abundance mindset and just showing gratitude for all the small things in life will create more abundance into your life. I feel like most of us don't take the time to like understand how blessed and how abundant we are in our everyday lives. Like sure, we haven't reached the career that we want to reach to yet. We haven't had the money in the bank account yet. We haven't come across the relationship yet. That doesn't mean that we can't have gratitude for where we are in our lives and the season that we're in. Like it's just such a blessing to be able to just wake up every morning and to have great weather and to be able-bodied. Like aside from my last point of the guy in Paris, like he literally had no limbs. He had one limb. You know, just seeing things from like, oh my God, I have my health, I have my family, I have my friends, I have something that I'm passionate about that I'm working on. And although I haven't reached this certain level, I'm so grateful to be able to even constantly learn and grow from this experience. And I'm just so grateful to be able to like be in season of my life of like, I don't know, maybe like I'm single now, but I'm so grateful that I had this season to where I'm fully immersed in my solitude, where I can just go out and do whatever I want. I don't have to worry about anyone else besides me. Like when will I ever get this time back in my life? Or although I'm not at the financial status I want to be at or the position in my career yet, like I'm so grateful to be able to even learn in this journey and to learn skills and that will equip me to be ready for that position when that's come to our life. Because that's a big thing too. Like we have to be able to be ready for what is to come in our lives. And so I feel like having gratitude and just being grateful for where we're at and what we do have is ultimately like the best thing to do to be able to like attract more abundance and opportunities into our life, because we're not thinking from a lack or scarcity mindset. We're thinking from a place of abundance, right? But if we see life from a negative standpoint, then guess what? We're just going to keep attracting more negative experiences and more negative things to happen into our life, because that's what we're constantly thinking about. So just being mindful of how we are going through our day. Like for me, like when I had a victim mindset and I was like really adamant on like changing my mindset in this journey, I made it like a video game of like, okay, how long can I go without complaining about anything? You know, things like that. Even something so simple as that can really like help you change your mindset. Like first it was like, okay, I went 24 hours without complaining. Like I rewarded myself with that. And then from going 24 hours without complaining, I pretty much like rewarded myself with that, whether it's like, you know, a quick little self-care, you know, bath or whatever, something small. But as the days goes on, my negative thinking seemed to decrease and to stop. And from that, I was being more intentional about reading my words of affirmation, making sure that I'm like, whenever something inconvenient would happen to me, I would make sure that like I flip the story in my head of like, if I'm driving, if I'm meeting my friend somewhere and it's like a lot of traffic and I'm like getting annoyed, I see that there's a car accident that happens and I'm like, thank God that wasn't me. Like I'm being protected, you know? So changing the story of like, oh my gosh, I'm being so inconvenienced. Like this is so unfair. Like I don't understand. So like, you know what? I'm so grateful that I am divinely protected and that I'm so glad that I ended up being exactly where I meant to be, because God forbid that could have been me in that car accident, you know? Or God forbid something does happen to you. I feel like things can always just be a lot more worse than what we have currently experienced. So just thinking it like that, of like something bad happens to you, just being like, you know what, this could have been way worse. There's always gonna be something way worse than what you're experiencing. And just simply having gratitude for that will help you change your mindset to a more abundant one. So just being mindful of how we are carrying out throughout the day, whether it's what we're consuming, whether it's who we're surrounded by, our environment, I believe is everything. We have to learn to give ourselves grace. At the end of the day, y'all, like it's our first time experiencing life. Like no one really knows what to do. Like we're all here trying to figure it out. So it's like, just be easy on yourself and take things one day at a time. But honestly, I think ultimately being intentional about how we're speaking to ourselves and how we are reprogramming our mind will ultimately propel us to the lives that we are meant for. But that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below any other topics you guys want me to talk about. Don't forget to subscribe. We are on a road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys for another video next week. Bye.